And the phone number listed on Exhibit 93 is what, sir?
562-481-8106.
And just to clarify, I'm now placing on the screen what we previously marked as Exhibit 249, letter C. Is that the same number that we're talking about here, sir? 562-481-8106?
Yes, it is.
So when we left off, we had gone through the records up until July 16th, 2012 at about 6 p.m. I'm now going to call your attention to from July 16th, 2012, 6:43 p.m. We see a text message coming in, correct?
Correct.
And does the phone appear to be connected to the network at that time?
It does not look to be connected, no.
And I'll call your attention now down all the way now on to July 17th, 2012. We're at 7:57 a.m. At any point there, does the phone appear to be connected to the network?
It doesn't appear to be.
Going on to the next page. July 17th, 2012, 10:03 a.m. Does it appear to be connected to the network at that time?
It does not.
Going all the way down to July 17th, 2012 at 10:35 p.m. That entire time, does the phone appear to be connected to the network?
It does not.
Sir, I believe you already testified about IMEI numbers, and in particular the IMEI number associated with that phone. Is that correct?
Correct.
And are you aware of whether or not the District Attorney's Office subpoenaed what's called an IMEI history for that particular handset that we've just talked about being used on July 16, 2012?
Yes, sir, I'm aware of that.
You may.
I was placing a document before you and ask you if you recognize that, sir.
I do.
And what do you recognize that to be?
It is a handset usage history for a specific IMEI ending in 4062.
And is that pursuant to a second document that I'm showing you now, an administrative subpoena for the IMEI history for that particular IMEI number?
Yes, correct.
I request that the subpoena be marked for identification and the IMEI history document that Mr. Ritchell is holding be marked as 249D. Just ID for the subpoena.
Without objection. WW. Any objection to the records?
Not for identification purposes.
No, the history report's off as an exhibit. Is there an objection?
No objection there.
Okay, thank you. It's 249D.
So we're placing Exhibit 249D on the screen. Just to make sure we're talking about the same IMEI number, I'm going to place Exhibit 249B on the screen as well. The IMEI number on Exhibit 249D and the IMEI number on Exhibit 249B, sir, are those the same IMEI number?
They are the same IMEI number. The user information has a checksum digit at the end of 2, but yes.
Calling your attention now to Exhibit 249D, the IMEI history. Does that indicate the last time that the device that we've discussed, the phone being used on or around July 16th, 2012, when the last date that that phone was ever used?
The date last used is June 28th, 2012, 10:41 a.m.
So I haven't zoomed in far enough for you.
We'd look at the bottom or the top one, I'm sorry.
The top one.
The top one says August 26th of 2012, 1900 hours.
And that's the last time that that device was used, at least according to AT&T records, is that correct?
Correct.
And if that device were used by anybody else, would your records indicate that IMEI number having a date other than August 26, 2012?
If it was used by an AT&T customer, yes.
And to be used by somebody other than an AT&T customer, the phone would have to be unlocked, you said?
It would have to be unlocked, and I wouldn't have any. I wouldn't be privy to that information.
Sir, can you explain, put that back a little. If there's a single device, why would there be 2 last used entries?
The phone numbers. The reason why there's 2 entries is because there was 2 different phone numbers associated with that IMEI. The first one being 562-481-8106, and then it looks like the phone number was changed to 310-330-6450.
But actually, sir, just to clarify, is that the opposite? The first number that phone had was 1-301-330.
Well, it is leading. Don't lead.
Sir, can you indicate which is the first one that had that IMEI number based upon the date it was last used?
The 310-330-6450 number looks like it was used first.
And it was that number was last used on that device on what date?
It was last used on that device, yes, on June 28th of 2012.
And then the phone number changed to this number? Stayed the same?
That's what it looks like, yes.
And 310, do you know what area code that is? Or what?
I don't.
Airport Windsor?
You may.
So I'm going to show you another document that's comprised of the data contained within Exhibit 249, the thumb drive of produced records by AT&T relative to subpoenas. I'm calling your attention now to a multi-page document. I'd ask you if you recognize that, sir.
Yes, I do.
And is that a subscriber information record as well as various records of calls, texts, and data relative to a certain phone number?
It is phone number of 203-606-8969.
And for the record, at least the large document I've given you, is it fair to state that that's not all of the records for that phone number, but it does contain quite a few, is that correct?
When you say all of the records, what do you mean by that? I'm sorry.
Meaning the entirety of the records for that phone number, if you know.
I'm not quite sure what you're asking me, to be quite honest with you.
For the record, is it fair to state that this document has pages 22 through 39, and that contains what kind of data, sir?
A voice. Looks like
Voice.
voice usage.
And then it has pages 176 through... through page 209, and what kind of data is that, sir?
This is the SMS.
So it's text messages.
Text messages, yes.
And lastly, pages 94 through 109 contains what, sir?
Data records.
Your Honor, I ask that the document recognized by Mr. Ritchell be entered as next numbered exhibit. I would suggest 249E.
Mr. Sullivan?
Subject to redaction, I don't know if that, court's indulgence. Without objection.
Thank you. 249E.
We're placing the first page of Exhibit 249E on the screen. Once again, is that a similar document you previously testified about?
Yes.
And what information is contained on this document, the first page of 249E?
This is a financially liable subscriber information for the name Shayana Jenkins.
Okay, and going down to the user information, what is the phone number for this?
203-606-8969.
And does it have a particular IMEI associated with it?
Yes, the IMEI is 356-112-050-741-233. Bless you.
Mr. Richter, without going through each and every line, I've now turned to page 34 of Exhibit 249E. Does it have similar entries that we previously have seen as far as the connection date, connection time, originating number? Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And similarly, the cell location is on the far right-hand side. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Mr. Richter, based on what I've shown you, is it fair to state that these are records relative to February of 2013? Is that correct? I'll place it back up there.
Yes, correct.
Now, sir, in addition to the records that AT&T produced that we've just gone over relative to that particular 203 phone number for the month of February 2013, are you aware of whether or not a IMEI history for that particular phone number was requested pursuant to a subpoena?
I'm not sure.
First witness, Ron? So I'm showing you a document and asking if you recognize that.
Yes, I do.
And what do you recognize that to be?
It's an IMEI history for a specific number.
I'm just showing you another document. Does this appear to be an administrative subpoena for the IMEI history for...
Grounds?
I want to do a speaking objection.
I'll see you at sidebar.
Device that utilized and/or was assigned telephone number 206-8969 during the time period of January 1st, 2010 to the present.
And just to clarify, showing you again the front page of Exhibit 249E, is that the phone number we just started discussing, 203-606-89? Owner listed as Shanna Jenkins?
That is correct.
I'm going to show you a second document. Does this appear to be a verification of authenticity of records issued by your company, AT&T, relative to that subpoena that you just identified?
Yes, it is.
Your Honor, the subpoena and the authentication from AT&T be marked for identification?
Same objection.
XX for identification.
And now again, sir, showing you the one-page document. Do you recognize that now, sir?
Yes.
And is that responsive to the items that were just marked for identification?
It is, yes.
And is that the IMEI history for that phone number, area code 203-606-8969?
Same objection. He's now reading the second document.
Well, I'm only confused because I don't see that phone number on that document. That's why I haven't answered. I don't see the 2036.
You're not able to answer that question, sir.
That is correct.
Let me pose another question to you, sir. When AT&T receives a request, is there a file number given to it?
Yes.
And what is the file number on? Let me see. Is there a file number listed on the subscriber sheet for area code 203-606-8969?
There is.
And what is that file number?
158.
I'm sorry. Is that for the record, or is that for one of XX?
I'll make this, may I make this ZZ?
No, let me see you at sidebar. Then why don't we attach the two of them? And let me just ask, is this part and parcel of what's in the thumb drive marked 249?
It is.
Or is this separate?
These documents are in Exhibit 249.
All right, then let's mark this 249F.
So we just placed on the screen part of exhibit number 249F. Can you just explain what these entries mean? First, this IMEI number, is that relative to a particular device?
It is. That particular IMEI is for a RIM, manufacturer RIM, BlackBerry, and it's a model 9900.
And according to this document, the IMEI history for a particular target number, does this indicate that the device changed to a different type of...
Objection, leading.
Let me ask you, what does the second entry mean, second line?
It's a different IMEI number. It's a different handset altogether than the one above it.
And what does EXP date mean?
I don't actually know if that's the end date. I'm not quite sure exactly what that date is.
And the third line, sir?
Third line is a different handset altogether. It's a Samsung SGH i927.
And the EXP date on that is 11/25/12.
2012, correct.
And the next line, sir?
Another different handset, another RIM BlackBerry 9900. And has a date of 3/26/2013.
The next device, sir?
Another separate handset, also RIM BlackBerry, model number STL100-3. And that expiration date is 6/24/2013.
And the last device, sir?
Again, a different handset, a RIM manufacturer, BlackBerry SQN100-1. And that expired on August 3rd of 2013.
And according to page 1 of Exhibit 249, this is the IMEI history for this particular phone number, sir?
Cellular number 203-606-8969.
And just to clarify what that means, in case it wasn't clear, are all of these separate devices, separate cell phones?
They are all individual separate cell phones, yes.
But at least according to the document produced by your company, AT&T, what does that mean relative to that phone number and those devices?
Objection to that question. The document speaks for itself.
I'm sorry, put the question again.
What does it mean as far as these particular devices and that phone number, at least according to AT&T's record?
Now overruled.
It tells me that particular cell phone number was used in those 6 different handsets, or 5 or 6 different handsets.
Everybody's witness, right? Mr. Ritchell, I'm going to show you first a 1 page of a document. Do you recognize that, sir?
Yes.
And does that appear to be a subscriber information for a certain cell phone number?
Yes, there's the financial liability paperwork for a prepaid customer, phone number 404-861-3292.
I'm going to show you a series of documents similarly separated by voice use and data use. And do all of these pages that I've put before you, are those relative to that same phone number?
Yes, they are.
And are these documents that were produced by AT&T pursuant to a subpoena that was previously entered as Exhibit 249 on the thumb drive?
Yes.
Your Honor, I ask that the multi-page document listed as prepaid customer for the number 404-861-3292 be entered as 249G.
Without objection.
Thank you. It will be marked.
Thank you, sir. I have no further questions.
Mr. Sullivan.
Thank you. Hello, Mr. Richter.
Hello.
So, just going to start off with actually where you started this. I think you started this morning, right? Did you start before lunch?
Yes.
All right, so started where you started this morning, and this has to do with cell sites. And when I say cell sites, you understand that to mean the cell towers.
Correct.
And you said that sometimes they're towers, right?
Yes.
Sometimes they're antennas off buildings.
Correct.
So when a person makes a telephone call, it hits a particular cell tower, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you, just for Nancy's sake, you have to say yes or no. It'll really help.
Yes, sir.
And you were very precise with your language. You said, once you said, generally speaking, it hits the tower closest to you.
Correct.
And a second time you said most of the time it hits the tower closest to you.
Correct.
But it's true that it hits other towers some of the time.
Yes.
And I'll go through the instances where it does. So there are a number of conditions that impact which cell tower a call hits, correct?
Correct.
I'm going to talk to you now about the technical characteristics of the cell sites themselves.
Okay.
So you told us that in densely populated areas, as opposed to rural areas, there are a number of cell sites located in the same geographic area.
Correct.
Now, so number of sites available is one factor that may determine whether it hits one cell tower versus one a half mile away, right?
Sure.
Maintenance and repair of a cell site.
Yes.
The height of the cell towers could impact it.
Height does come into play, yes.
Height above sea level.
Correct.
The wattage output.
Correct.
And the range of coverage of a particular cell tower.
That is correct. Yes.
And so, and just so we don't lose the jury, have you ever seen that commercial? I won't say the name of the company, it's different from yours, where they say, can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? It's kind of, I mean, what's going on technically? It's searching for cell towers, right? It may be going from one cell tower to another cell tower, and you've got a slight break in coverage.
True.
Now, there's another area that determines which cell tower, may determine which cell tower hits. So we just talked about technical characteristics of the cell site themselves. There's also technical characteristics of the antennas that may impact which cell site it pings at or hits at, right?
Okay.
A little convincing. So number of antennas could make a difference.
Well, type of antenna, the tilt of the antenna. There's a lot of different factors, and there's many different types of antennas. So I think we are going yes.
Okay, so number is one.
Correct.
Angle of the antenna, angle or direction is another.
Correct. Yes, sir.
The height of the antenna.
Yes, sir.
And the call traffic processed through that antenna.
Correct.
So if there's a lot of traffic through an antenna here, then it could go to another one over here.
It's possible, yes.
I want to talk to you now about the technical characteristics of the phone itself. That could impact which tower it pings off of, correct?
Not necessarily, no.
Wouldn't wattage output?
Well, all handheld devices are regulated by the FCC to not have any more than 0.6 of a watt at any given time. So the further you are away from a cell tower, your phone will power up and power down as it's needed to.
But it's at least fair to say, with respect to the technical characteristics of the phone, the generation of the phone's broadband capacity could make a difference in terms of which cell tower it hits.
Yes.
There are environmental and geographic factors, weather, for example,
Yes, sir.
topography.
Topography, definitely, yes.
What's topography?
Landscape.
And the level of urban development.
Yes, sir, true.
Indoor versus outdoor use, fair to say that could impact the strength of the signal.
Yes, sir.
Now, and those are among the reasons why you did not say that absolutely every time it hits the cell tower closest to you geographically, right?
That is correct.
I'm going to ask you how long have you worked with AT&T?
26 years.
26 years. Do you agree with AT&T's statement that its use of cell site records is for benign purposes, such as determining whether roaming charges apply and tracking call volume by location? Would you agree with that statement?
Well, overruled.
Would you repeat the statement, please?
That the use of cell site records are for benign purposes, such as determining whether roaming charges apply and tracking call volume by location. Would you agree with that?
It's used for other different things. It's the benign word you're throwing at me that's sort of not making sense to me.
Well, let's do it like this. So I'll take out benign. Among the purposes for the use of cell site records are to determine roaming charges and tracking call volume by location. Would you agree with that?
Sure, yes.
Now, and in fact, you testified on direct that it captures for billing purposes,
Yes, sir.
and that's sort of what you understand the roaming charges to mean in part.
Correct, yeah.
And you said for network reliability, right?
Yes, sir.
Now, so the word benign, would you agree that the purpose of AT&T's cell site data is not designed to be a Big Brother tracking your every location?
See you at Cypher.
Fine. And is it fair to say that the purpose of cell site data are for purposes like billing, primarily for purposes like billing and network reliability, and not to precisely track the locations of individual customers?
That is correct.
So a cell phone, to use a colloquial expression, and right now I'm going to put aside GPS. So we're talking about cell data. Do you understand me to be referring to cell data?
Okay.
To cell site data.
Okay.
All right. So a cell phone in that sense is not a bug, to use a colloquial expression, a tracker.
That is correct.
You also, during direct, used a very careful phrase. You said that the data shows movement from one tower to another tower, right?
Correct.
You didn't make a comment about where the phone is itself, right?
No, the data The data showed me that the handset itself was moving because those two sites are not next to one another, so they're not neighbors of one another. So in other words, that one site wouldn't just hand off to that other site. There was other sites in between.
Right. Now, you also, in response to a number of questions from Mr. Hagan, said that the data can be, your word was erroneous.
Yes, I did use that word, yes.
And that is because we looked at a single time when the holder of the phone, according to the data, was accessing a site in Connecticut, right? Mm-hmm. And accessing a site in Boston.
Correct.
And as an engineer, as a scientist, you will agree that you cannot be both in Boston and Connecticut at the same time.
Yes, sir, correct.
So that indicates to you that the data can sometimes give you erroneous results.
Correct.
Now, you mentioned that it may have something to do with apps that are open in the background.
Correct.
And by apps, you mean things like the Weather Channel app and WhatsApp, these sorts of things?
Anything, correct.
Now, these data, I'm just going to show you a random page of 249C. None of these, actually I'll turn to, here's some data right there, 715 at 136. All of these numbers that Mr. Hagan gave you, none of those numbers can tell you when an app is being actively opened and used, right?
It can. Will you repeat your question, please? Because actually, if going through the call records, I can see when that, yes, theoretically I could see when the app was initially launched, and then subsequently every hour afterwards through the call records, I can see that the site is looking for the phone.
Right, but in the interim, you can tell when it's initially launched, but in the interim, right, none of those numbers I put up there shows you that. So assume, let me do it this way. Assume you open WhatsApp at 6 a.m. None of those numbers show you what I'm doing with it at 6:15 a.m.
No, not at all.
So you could be using it actively at 6:15 a.m. and it's not reflected as such in any of those numbers that Mr. Hagan showed you.
You can only, well, the bytes up and the bytes down do show, that's how you can show usage. You can show data usage via the bytes up and the bytes down.
Now where is that?
On the data records themselves, there was a column that has bytes up and bytes down, I believe.
Okay, but not on this, right?
Not on this one, no, sir.
Okay.
So by looking at that piece of paper, I couldn't tell when the app was open, no.
And the data relates only to where the telephone is, right? Or relates only to the telephone itself.
The data only relates to the telephone itself, yes, sir.
Right. And one last area here, actually the next to last area, there were several instances where you indicated the telephone was off network, correct?
Yes, sir.
And off network could mean one of a number of things, isn't that right?
Yes, sir.
It could mean that an individual with the phone had the telephone on, but it was in a no service area.
Yes.
It could mean in a no service area, for example, could be a basement that doesn't receive good cell service, correct?
That is correct, yes, sir.
Or the elevator right out here, right?
Any place no service, yes, sir. Phone will be offline.
And just so and you use the phrase off network, so can we stick with off network just for clarity?
Yes, sir.
So, so it could be in a basement. It could be that it was turned off.
Yes, sir.
It It could be that the offline and off network and back on network could indicate that the holder of a telephone moved from a place where there was no service, and then as soon as the holder of a telephone got into an area where there was service, then it went back. Is online the correct terminology?
Yes, sir. Yep.
Then it went back online, correct?
That is correct, yes.
And nothing about any of these numbers can tell you whether a phone was turned on and off versus in a basement versus in an elevator versus a dead battery, right?
Right, I cannot tell. That's correct.
So any speculation as to why that particular phone was offline would be a guess.
Just, yes, purely speculation. That's why I just say it's off network for whatever reason, right?
Court's brief indulgence. Can I see the exhibits? All of them. 249. Yeah. I think so. All right, I'm going to hand you exhibits 249, A through G.
Thank you.
And one of them is a disc. 249 itself. I printed them out. You can look at them and tell me if this is a reflection of the data on the disc.
Excuse me. I guess, what is the question, sir? I'm sorry.
I haven't asked one yet.
Oh, okay.
I just gave you the document and make sure. So these are all various documents of telephone calls, text messages, or data usages well, actually, a few different telephones, correct?
That is correct, yes, sir.
And that tells you nothing about the human being using the telephone, right?
Correct.
Now, it takes as much time as you need, but in looking through all of those documents and all of those numbers and data and so forth, can you tell us, looking at those documents, whether Aaron Hernandez was standing in front of the W at 2:28 p.m. on the 2:28 a.m. I'm sorry, on the 16th of July 2012?
I couldn't tell you who was using those phones. I have no idea.
Well, listen to my question.
Okay.
I understand. Thank you. You cannot tell us who was using the phone, but with all of these numbers and so forth, can you tell us whether Aaron Hernandez was standing in front of the W Hotel at 2:28 a.m. on the 16th of July, 2012?
I don't know.
Looking at all of those documents, and take your time, can you tell us whether at 2:28 a.m. Aaron Hernandez was in the passenger seat of a Toyota SUV in the area of Shaw Mutton, at the corner of Shaw Mutton Herald Street?
I wouldn't know that, sir. Take this back.
Thank you, sir. No further questions.
Thank you.
Mr. Hagan, anything further?
Only one quick follow-up question, sir. Now, I believe on cross-examination, sir, you were asked about the anomaly with the, at every hour, the app would be open and it would reflect a data point reflecting the same tower. You recall those questions on cross?
Yes, sir.
And I think Mr. Sullivan asked you, well, you couldn't tell when somebody opened the app, and you said, well, actually, I could. You recall that answer?
Yes, sir.
I'm just going to place on the screen what's been entered as Exhibit 249B. And for the record, I'm at the data records for the 562 number to Aaron Hernandez. And we'll go to entry number 537. Can you see that from your screen, sir?
Yes, sir.
And 537, what's the time listed as the use of data?
9:13 a.m.
And do you see anything in the bytes up or bytes down and in all of the subsequent records that suggest that this is what you were talking about?
Correct.
Tell us what you mean.
The bytes up and bytes down just indicate usage. Indicate that the app was communicating, the phone was communicating with the app in some manner.
And does this record here reflect that this app was opened at about 9:13 in the morning on July 15th, 2012, and we will see every hour increments from there on the 13th minute of the hour that it will show the same cell tower?
Yes, sir. That's what I meant by that's how you can tell when the app was originally opened.
Thank you, sir. No further questions.
Can I see that? Very briefly, Your Honor.
Mr. Sullivan, ignore the distractions. Do you have any questions?
I do, Your Honor. We're attempting to get a video. I can just ask the questions, Your Honor. So on 249B, Mr. Richter, I am...
All right, hold on. Folks, take 5 minutes.